Live, where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
It's Sunday, April 24th. Welcome to ABC-7 Extra. Good evening. Maria Garcia's off this week. I'm Eric Huseby, pinch hitting. For the next half hour, we'll be discussing the prospect of a 22-story luxury hotel apartment complex and retail development coming to West El Paso on Shadow Mountain Drive. It would be built on property adjacent to the Coronado Tower and Burlington Coat Factory. It's a $100+ million development that would bring jobs, increase the tax base, and inject some real flair into the community. The price of that, though, some altered views in West El Paso and the potential of aggravating an already congested traffic situation. Joining me tonight are Robert Ardovino, the Vice Chair of the City Plan Commission, which recommended approving the project this week, and Dr. Kristyn Ingram, who lives in the neighborhood and put together a petition asking to scale it down. You can email us your comments and questions now to erich@KVIA.com, ERICH@KVIA.com. You can also reach us at 915-496-1775, and on Twitter, use the hashtag ABC7Extra. Let's take a closer look at just exactly what we're talking about.
This is an incredible opportunity that should not be missed.
The announcement caught many El Pasoans by surprise. A 22-story luxury hotel and apartment complex near Shadow Mountain Drive and Mesa Street. More than 750,000 square feet with retail, open spaces, and a 715-space parking garage. It almost seems like a little bit of Scottsdale here in El Paso.
This project will do wonders for adding to the new vitality we're seeing in our community.
The design brought before the City Plan Commission this week calls for a 219-room luxury hotel on the lower levels, no brand yet. The Myers Group says it's in discussions with several national chains. And on the upper levels, there would be 228 apartments. Down below, 42,000 square feet of retail space and 55,000 square feet of landscaping. But not everyone's happy. Several residents in the neighborhood wrote letters of opposition, and a petition was filed asking for a height reduction.
It affects our quality of life. It's a quiet, beautiful neighborhood that we have sacrificed to live there.
City Development Director Carlos Gallinar says there's a lot to like, but
for the height, we would have said this is 100% good for El Paso. I think we're at about a 95%.
His recommendation, approval, while asking the developer to reduce the height.
Anytime you have vertical development, you're going to have some concerns just because of the different elements that come into play. The residents have some concerns. And so when we made our recommendation, we wanted to make sure that it was a recommendation for approval.
He said the density of the development is desirable considering the city's investment in the Mesa Street Brio line. But residents aren't just concerned about the height, they wanted a postponement.
To find out what is the impact of traffic in that area. We already have a lot of traffic.
But speaker after speaker supported the project.
If you want to knock floors down, I think you're crazy.
The Plan Commission recommended approval without seeking a height reduction. The proposed zoning change from commercial to general mixed use next goes to City Council for a final decision. It's a stunning structure in this artistic rendering, more like something you'd find in Las Vegas or Miami Beach. And it would be right at the edge of a residential neighborhood on Shadow Mountain, just up the block from Mesa Street. Joining us now are Robert Ardovino, who serves as Vice Chair on the City Plan Commission, and Dr. Kristyn Ingram, who's galvanizing opposition to the scope and, I gather, the fast-track approval process it appears to be on. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'll start with you, Mr. Ardovino. At this week's City Plan Commission meeting, you said it looks like a wonderful project, a well-thought-out addition to the city. What's the summary of benefits that you see?
Well, like we said in the earlier package, it's quite a project for someone to come into town and spend $100 million+ on development. I think I was told that the development on the freeway by Cielo Vista Mall wasn't even a $100 million project. So it's quite an injection of money into the community, and it's nice to have more scale. It's nice to have more upscale. It would help the area. I believe the West Side could use something like this.
Okay, and Dr. Ingram, your petition stated that the 75 signatures or so that you gathered were all collected in a 24-hour span after learning about the project. What's happened in the neighborhood since then?
Well, since then, we haven't done anything specific in the neighborhood. I'm actually just waiting to see. I was going to start contacting my neighbors and evaluating their opinions. Most of the signatures I got were actually from just my day-to-day activity work, where my children go to school, where they do their after-school activities. And just from that, I was able to get that many signatures. Our neighborhood is mostly just concerned about the scale of the project and how quickly it's coming about. None of us knew that this was happening prior to 2 days before the meeting.
Had you seen the signs in the neighborhood saying zoning change being contemplated?
So I hadn't noticed. My husband, after we saw this article about the building, said, "Oh, I had seen a possible zoning change sign on the lot." I never noticed. So.
Okay, and Mr. Ardovino, if somebody sees a zoning change sign, what would you recommend they do if they want to?
Well, inquire. I mean, I see these signs all over the place as well, and you know, it's a busy life everyone has, so it's hard to second guess what's going on. It's an interesting place for infill. I think building out on some of these lots, as far as I can remember, that thing's been it's been vacant. So, but I understand. There's those signs all the time, and you sometimes don't pay attention to them.
So what is the process here? A developer comes and they say, we've got a project here, we think it's going to be good for the city, we're going to need a zoning change to get this done. Mm-hmm. They go to the development office and then it comes to you. What kind of things are going on as that's taking place?
They meet with city staff for many, many months prior to us even seeing this type of proposal. Again, the City Plan Commission recommends to, it's seven to nine people up there that recommend to City Council whether a project's worthwhile. Of course, city councilors are, the city staff has been involved with them for quite a long time. And it's, you know, they actually can't talk about the project until a certain amount of time. So they have to keep it under wraps.
The development office can't talk about it.
They can't, no. Because there's, you know, the people that are coming into town, they have to do all their due diligence. You know, a project of this size has to go through some pretty major financial and well, just hoops of all kinds, financial hoops, and they have to do a lot of imagining if this is going to make sense for them. So it's a big deal, $100 million. It's very few people come into El Paso to spend that kind of money.
Sure. Dr. Ingram, have you looked out at the area and tried to figure out what it's going to do to your view, your neighbors' views? Do you have an idea of what that's really going to look like?
Well, it's all imagination at this point, but especially given the renderings, you know, when I look out in my backyard, I can see the Coronado Tower, and I can only imagine, you know, this is double the size of that tower, so it would be a huge, just a huge thing to see. I'm less concerned about my view, although, of course, I love having a view of the mountains and the city. I feel like the views would be much more adversely affected, you know, in those apartments and condos, especially on Shadow Mountain. All they're going to see is this building. I'm much more concerned about the traffic issues and, you know, things of that nature, and the fact that in that area there are multiple apartments which aren't full. So I'm a little concerned they're going to make this $100 million building and then it's going to be empty. So.
Okay, well, we've got to take a quick break now. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. We will be right back. And if you'd like to share your comments or you have questions for one of our guests, you can call our comment line at 496-1775. If you're online right now, you can email me at erich@KVIA.com. That's ERICH@KVIA.com. Tweet me at Eric Huseby, where you can use the hashtag ABC7 Extra. You're watching ABC7 Extra, where news comes first. Welcome back to ABC7 Extra. I'm Eric Huseby in for Maria Garcia. Tonight we're discussing a 22-story, $100+ million luxury hotel and apartment complex planned for West El Paso. It would be El Paso's second highest building, but by far the highest in suburban West El Paso, next to the Burlington Coat Factory, behind Coronado Tower on Shadow Mountain Drive, just off Mesa Street. With us tonight are Robert Ardovino, who serves as vice chair on the City Plan Commission, and Dr. Kristyn Ingram, who led a petition drive asking the city to take a second look. Now, Dr. Ingram, this kind of snuck up on the neighborhood here. Do you have concerns about the process?
Well, from what Mr. Ardovino said, this is how the process is normally done. I've never been involved in anything like this before, so everything is new to me. But it sounds like this is the normal way that this happens. To me, it felt a little bit like they were just kind of trying to sneak it in, and so that no one could voice their opposition.
Okay, and is it now basically a political process? It's before the council, and they'll listen to their constituents, and we'll see what...
Well, we can't guarantee that they'll listen to their constituents, but at least you can talk to them about your issues. And it does seem, people come to CPC meetings all the time with the concern, because as a resident, it would be my concern as well. So the CPC meeting is kind of the first public forum that anyone has to talk about this. It does still go to council in the next month, and that talking to your councilors between now and then is the best and really only way to talk.
Okay. Your petition doesn't ask to kill the project, okay? No, what result would make you happy?
Well, I think, for me, ideally, something more in the scale of the Coronado Tower, 11 to maybe even 15 stories compared to the 22 would be much more reasonable to me. I like the idea of more retail space in the neighborhood, a more walkable neighborhood. I'm not in any way opposed to that. It's just, it seems very overwhelming, this building.
I tend to associate luxury hotels with beaches and golf courses, or hotels in general with freeway exits or airports, downtowns, and this is up on the hill kind of by itself. That strikes me as odd, and I was trying to think of something like it in another town that I've been to, and I'm not really coming up with anything. Have you had much interaction with the developers, why they think that this is going to work?
I haven't. Being on the commission, we hear 10 cases every 2 weeks, and this was just another case that we saw, and that's the way we look at them as well. As we get presented the packet, we give it a good thought, and we move on with a recommendation or without one. I too, I see that and understand that. Every place I've been, hotels typically are on freeway exits. They're, even luxury or not, they have some traffic. So it's an interesting process to me as well, that they would pick that area to do this.
Okay, and I guess mixed use is kind of a key to it. That it's luxury apartments as well as the hotel. And as you look at it from the city standpoint, where they've got the Brio line now, and they're talking about wanting something to service that density, or to have the density to use that and bring things to businesses. Are there other factors that you consider as you look at a project like this? What do you consider?
Well, I think we try to consider a little bit of everything. Infill is for us on the commission is a big deal. The sprawl that El Paso has doesn't help El Paso. It as everyone knows, sprawl, it takes all the amenities out to the outskirts, and it requires a lot of money by the city just to keep it going. So when you think about it, infill is a good investment for the city, and that's where my mind is, at least. And when you look at a process like this, and someone coming in from out of town that well, a lot of money coming in from out of town, frankly, it's nice that they think El Paso's a worthy place to invest. And I absolutely mirror the concerns. I'm very concerned with traffic. I have to drive in it as well, and it is an interesting spot to have picked. And I have a restaurant along with my sister in the middle of nowhere, so I see the challenge with that every day, and at least there's a lot of residential traffic going by there, and the west side, yeah, we'll see it from everywhere. It's a big structure.
Okay, and as people evaluate if this is going to be good for them, it may be good for the community at large. I guess I come back to the recommendation from the development department to approve it at a lower height, and that recommendation didn't happen. What was the thought behind that?
You know, I can't speak for the rest of the commission. I think the way I looked at it, I kind of think about the way Chicago was built, New York City was built, all the big cities were built. They had to build higher. That's the way it was. It's kind of hard to tell someone who's trying to spend that kind of money that you need to go back and do all your paperwork again to figure out if 4 or 5 more flights down makes sense for you. I don't know what I would do in that situation either. But I looked at it. I drove around the site, and I understand people's views might be obstructed. I like the views of the mountain, and luckily people live kind of east of there, and they'll still see their mountains, and that's the most important view for me. So I put that a little bit into a little perspective myself.
Okay, well, you've probably heard the acronym NIMBY, not in my backyard. Is this something that has to be in somebody's backyard? If this is the place the developers want to put it, is that something you can live with?
I love the neighborhood that I live in. I'm not going to move just because this building is there. I will adjust to it the same way I've adjusted to anything else. The Coronado Tower right now stands out as a huge building in the area, and I don't even think about it because I'm used to it. I grew up here. I've always seen it, and I'm sure that we'll get to that point with this building should it be built. But
okay, one thing that I think people look at, as we've seen with downtown, is you put something big there and other things spring up, and so you're looking at an area there with some older retail and things like that, and is there any way to calculate or estimate or guess at what might come on the heels of something like this?
Well, I would imagine more development. Typically, that's the typical answer on something like that. This is still many years away. I would imagine that as well. And like Monticello down there, it has spurred development in that area, mainly for themselves, but they have spurred development there. So you would hope it would. You would hope it would help the area. I mean, walkable communities are a good thing, and we all can agree with that. So, if I was anywhere close to that community, I would be happy to walk to more amenities. So, hopefully that comes to play. I think it will. We're still many years away for something like this, though.
Okay. Well, here's a reminder. We are live, and you can join this discussion by calling 496-1775 or emailing me at erich@KVIA.com. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. We'll be back to take your comments and questions tonight. When I checked out the Myers Group website, one of the things that struck me was that this tower appears to be of a magnitude a lot larger than the other projects they've worked on. There's 2 projects shown on the site, one of which has since been sold. They appear to be tasteful but relatively conventional apartment complexes. The El Paso project appears to be quite a bit bigger undertaking, and of course the Myers Group is a relatively recent entity. The principals have been involved in other commercial real estate ventures for many years. So now let's, I'm told we have some callers. Rick from the West Side.
I really wish that people would stop whining. This is probably the greatest thing that's going to happen to the West Side. We need to be progressive. That's why the East Side has great restaurants and we don't. So I hope the project goes through, and I think it's the greatest thing for the West Side of El Paso.
Any thoughts?
I think the West Side has some great restaurants as well.
I agree.
But I agree. I mean, we have to think a little more progressively in El Paso, and maybe go visit some of those, Rick.
Okay, and now here we have Elaine from the West Side.
Yes, I think that that building is nice, but it should be built farther down Mason Street behind Monticello development, right off the freeway. That's a brand new neighborhood, and it would fit in there perfectly. And it'd be out of the way, and nobody would complain about it.
And I'm told that was Scott, not Elaine. Let's try Elaine now. Or perhaps we don't have her. Well, I do have an email here from Silvano. The city of El Paso needs to consider all the empty houses we currently have before accepting a new apartment development. I don't understand, why do we need more hotels, apartment buildings, or more houses? I'd like to know how the city approves or disapproves new projects. We are having projects shoved down our throats, says Silvano. This kind of gets back to your initial criticism of the fact that there are vacancies in the area already. Does the Plan Commission look at that?
Really, we don't have a scale to look at something like that. I think if it was an apparent problem, that the city would bring it to our attention. But again, it's someone's money, and someone's thinking about spending it. It's like if your neighbor decides to knock down 2 houses and put up 1, it's really his choice if he's within the law.
And you can get the zoning
right. Make it all happen the way you want it. Right.
Okay. I'm told we do now have Elaine.
Yes, my concern, and I was wondering what your opinions are on the daily commutes if this building and all of these people that would occupy this building are added to that location. Because I know in the mornings and the afternoons, traffic is already backed up. How do you think that's going to affect it, and what can the city do to correct that if this building is added?
That kind of broke up in my earpiece here. Did you catch that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with the traffic concerns. I mean, the traffic right this moment is probably the worst it's ever been in most of our existence here in the city. Obviously, hopefully these freeways will actually take care of alleviate some of these issues. I sure hope so, because my commute's crazy right now. It looks like they have a good network of connected streets up there. I drive them, and I know they're busy, and something like this tends to add obviously a lot of traffic, but you would hope with the bus line and with Mesa being there, it would help alleviate some of that. And then possibly people riding their bikes more and getting out of the cars more. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, I know one of the reasons I moved here from Los Angeles was to get away from traffic, and I'm having flashbacks the last few months here. I'm hoping that the labor pains will come to an end and we'll have a beautiful baby. Is it your job on the Plan Commission to let me backtrack here. Do they bring to you traffic mitigation things when they pitch a project, or is that streets department that's completely different?
Well, traffic is a concern. It was a concern for all the commissioners, and typically, depending on the project, depends on whether they do traffic studies. This one was a traffic study that was done. They talked a little bit about it in the Plan Commission meeting and talked about mitigation with the interconnectivity of the streets. So, I think. I'm hoping they're doing their job well. I do obviously have concerns because we're all driving through it right now, and that's Texas. We've got 2 major projects happening, and then a trolley on top of it for the west side, and every day. So we hope the traffic department knows what they're talking about.
Got a lot going on for sure.
Right.
Here we have Armando in the Northeast.
Good evening. If the West Siders don't want this opportunity in their backyard or front yard, we'll gladly take it in the Northeast. We have an eyesore called the Cohen Stadium. It needs filled in right off of 54. And if you need to shoot over to the west side, we got Trans Mountain just north of that, so we'll gladly take it in the Northeast. Thank you.
I wish they'd turn Cohen Stadium into an amphitheater.
Right.
I think that would be a perfect use there. Okay, and our last caller of the evening is Claudia on the west side.
Yes, this is Claudia from the west side, and I just want to say that I think this is a good addition for those people that got disengaged when Sprouts moved. They walk over to the grocery store and they need it.
Okay. Well, I've asked Mr. Ardovino for a lot of technical things. I'll leave you with the last word here, Dr. Ingram. Is there something that you would like to tell City Council as they consider this?
I'd just like City Council to listen to the people on the west side and take our concerns into account. Like I said, I think that bringing more projects like this to the west side is a positive thing. Making it more walkable is a positive thing. But I still stand by my concerns that it's much larger than anything else in the area, and that I see, when I read through their paperwork, I didn't see anything about really mitigating any of the traffic issues. And that intersection right there is already overstressed. So those would be my biggest concerns, and I hope everybody can work something out.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Kristyn Ingram, Robert Ardovino. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been ABC 7 Extra. Maria Garcia will be back next week.